And welcome back from another great center stage session. We are going to keep the CX conversation going in just a moment. Before we do, though, we're going to take it straight out to the show floor where Rob is hanging out in the DevNet zone to talk about all the latest and greatest in XDR. Rob, how's it going, my friend?
Oh my gosh, could it be any better? I don't think so. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Always learning new stuff here in the DevNet zone. Steve Hall, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
As we were kind of setting this up earlier, you've got a couple of different demos to walk us through. The theme being, though, really very common and with all of us today is so much data, so little time, human brain, it's getting hard to kind of keep up, but you've got answers for us. Is that a decent way to set it up?
Absolutely, and more importantly, answers for our customers. So we're talking two outcomes here. So what we want to do is show services and how services enable using AI for our customers to consume our products faster and be able to do it with better quality and less human error. So the first case that we're going to walk through is with Cisco XDR, our security platform. And what we're going to do here is we're going to integrate a large language model into the automated workflow. So when a security threat comes in, the large language model is actually going to use generative AI to troubleshoot across the whole life cycle of the security incident. Let's take a look at it. So what you see here is an incident coming into our XDR platform. Umbrella has detected a threat. The large language model is analyzing the threat from that, and it's taking a look at all of the details in that alert. It's crafting an action plan on how it needs to troubleshoot and investigate the security threat. Look at this beautiful incident update that it's putting into the system. It's giving context around what it's analyzing, what it needs to go do next, and then it's building its next action plan. Still, generative AI at the helm here, taking a look at what the next steps need to be. It's recommending an action plan now, so it's determining what our next steps need to be. At this point, now it's going to generate a change request. And we all know, nobody likes to generate change requests, right? And so it's generating the request for us. So here we're asking for approval, and now a human would go in, analyze what generative AI in our AI assistant has recommended that we do to take this risk off of the network. A human's then going to go in, click approve. It's now back to the AI assistant to then finish it up, build the execution for taking this node off the network, and then isolate that host so there's no threat to the business. So across that whole life cycle, seeing generative AI taking it from threat detection all the way through execution and remediation of that threat to protect your business.
Oh, that's awesome. And am I saying it correctly? It's agentic because you've got actual action being taken. I like the fact that it fills out the ticket for you.
Yes, yeah, it's agentic under the hood. There's actually 3 agents virtually that work with each other to create that outcome.
That is very cool.
Yes.
Okay, what else you got?
All right, so our next scenario. So now we're talking infrastructure as code, specifically our services for services as code. And what this is using code principles like we develop software for to manage configuration for networks. So what we want to do here is we want to reduce the simplicity of how we configure networks, and we want to also build intelligence into that too, so that we reduce our human error and we can execute change faster. So we're going to talk through 3 use cases here. The first use case, and so all of this wraps around an AI assistant. And the first use case is understanding configuration. So let's take a look at that. So we've got a natural language prompt, and Cisco AI Assistant understands how to configure ACI. Now, maybe I don't know ACI, and I don't know what's configured, but it knows the state of my configuration. So it's telling me, oh, you've got a production tenant in this instance. You've got some fabric policies. So now I'm informed of what the current state of my network is and what that configuration is. So that's pretty cool, but what if I want to make a configuration change? I can ask it to generate a configuration change for me by describing the intent of what I want to have happen. So let's say I need to configure a subnet on each of the bridge domains in this configuration. It'll generate the configuration for me because it understands how to do configuration. So it's going to generate the configuration, and I can take that configuration, copy it, and paste it in my execution engine to deploy that change. So reducing the complexity of what I need to know in order to administer my network and being able to do it faster.
Yeah.
The final use case we have, what if I push this change out and something goes wrong? You can see here there's an error message on the screen. I, by accident, asked for a duplicate ID of a VLAN, and as a result, it didn't execute the change. I can ask the assistant, what's wrong? Copy paste that error in, it identifies the error the logical error in my change, and it's recommending a correction to the change. I can now copy the corrected configuration, go put it in, execute that change, and then I'm done with my change request. So really reducing the complexity of how our customers manage their networks and use our products.
I feel like you've taken it to another level, but you still left a little human in the middle to make sure that there's some responsibility
Yes.
and some clarification there. Steve, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Guys, we'll go back to the studio.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Rob. Thanks, Steve Hall. Great demo. We appreciate you walking us through that and everything that you guys are doing out there. Keep bringing us those great stories. All right, as promised, we are going to continue the conversation from the last center stage, dig a bit deeper into CX and really hone in on services as code in particular, because this lets us automate network management for faster implementation, faster deployment. And in order to bring us those insights, I'm going to turn this way. I've got Michael Kemper with me, CTO of CX EMEA. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much.
So glad to have you here. Thank you. And back on set from your prior conversation with Alpa across the way, I've got Jesse Reed, our VP of CX Product Management. Jesse, I'm so glad you had time to do this again today.
Great to be here.
All right, so thanks for hanging out with us on the broadcast. Let's dive in here. Let's talk services as code just to kind of kick things off. And Michael, I'll start with you. Automation is just so much more critical right now in today's AI era, right? If we are going to overcome all of this complexity in network management, all these hurdles in deployment. So why don't you give us a little example of what Cisco is doing to leverage automation to address these kinds of customer challenges?
Yeah, so what we've been doing is we've developed service as code to make things much easier and much more robust, because you cannot have in the implementation phase of those sorts of changes, you cannot have the human interface still being the essential one. So you have to take things into a digital way, and if you do that, you're going to come down from weeks and months to minutes of change times with much higher success. What we are seeing in real life is a kind of at least 5 to 10 times faster than you usually would have been, and you are going to get to 100% success rate, which is even more successful. Because I think all of us have been sitting in maintenance windows in the past where things got horribly wrong, and then even your rollback capabilities didn't work. We've eliminated all of this with service as code to make it much more robust for customers, and do that all across many architectures, which is a real game changer for AI.
All right, so I'm smiling here because I'm going to ask that question that I know so many of our viewers are watching. They hear these statistics of how much more rapidly we can do it, and they say, yeah, sure. It's a great idea. Thank you so much, Cisco, for making that promise to us. We can really do it, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's happening, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So our promise is 100% change success 5 times faster.
Yeah.
And you heard Steve go through the demo of how it all works. But what we really have to do is take a step back and understand, why do changes fail, right? So often we point to human error as the condition. But let's face it, we're all imperfect. We are human. And by the way, AI is imperfect too.
Yeah.
So we really need to get to the root causes of why change fails. The first is state, and more specifically, configuration state. Most of our customers don't know the actual configurations running on their boxes at any given point in time. Nevertheless, the collection of those configurations and what it should be yielding in terms of functionality in the environment. That's factor number one. Second factor is what I like to refer to as first of, or first of its kind. So often, the people that go into a change are doing something that they've never done before. But it isn't the first time it's been done in the industry. It's actually been done many times over. But those people doing that change don't have access to that wisdom and experience that came before them. And then the third is, as Michael was describing, humans are linking the process. They're kind of connecting the dots. We need it to be a digital workflow that ties it all together. So as Steve was taking you through the AI interface into the solution, what he was showing you was infrastructure as code. It's not new. It's taking a software discipline, right? The way we manage software. We fork a version of software. We make changes to it. We test it. We validate it. We're taking that same approach to configuration. And we're adding all of Cisco's experience, knowledge, and best practices into that model that prevents our customers from doing things that won't work or cause harm in their environment. And then we tie the whole solution together with business process and analytics, where you can see the end user experience, you can see the application performance, and know whether your network is yielding the end state that's expected.
All right, so let me tug at that thread just a little bit longer, right? Because again, I always like to put myself into the mindset of the customer. And one thing that we know is we don't know what we don't know. We always assume, no, I've got a much better grasp on everything than I actually do, even if somebody feels a bit in the weeds about it. So as we try to get out there and let them know, we are here for you, we want to partner with you, we want to help you, we want to support you, what is the story that we can tell our customers that says, You don't know what you don't know, but we do, because it's been done before. We have the experience to get you where you need to go. How do we get that out to them?
So what we've been doing is, this methodology was developed together with customers, and we meanwhile have that live with more than 50 customers globally. And if you look into the interesting environment, seeing ourselves as customer, when we did certain changes a while ago, we saw that we had exactly the problems which Jesse just outlined. And when we looked into our WebEx environment, we've been able to do this internally with 70% higher productivity rate and 100% success. And that success piece is absolutely essential. And if you look into getting traceability, because if you use controllers, you are using controllers and you do implementations and you do not really have a trace back of who did what by when. With our methodology, you're going to have 100% traceback of everything you've been doing, and in case something went wrong, you're able to go one step back and you're back at the beginning. And 70% productivity increase for WebEx, which is running globally in many data centers, is a huge step ahead.
And it's an easy story to tell and for people to understand. We're about 1:45. I want to take just about 30 seconds to wrap it up on this. Automation is such a big efficiency booster, productivity booster as well. How does services as code help to address that? What's coming next for that?
The numbers don't lie, right? Mike was talking about his experience. Overall, in day one implementation, we're seeing 40% improvement in efficiency. That's significant. In day two, if you employ this methodology, it can reach upwards of 90% improvement.
Wow.
So what we're doing is rolling this out across all of Cisco's architectures. And very soon, in the next few months, you're going to have it across the entire portfolio. And we're tying it all together, making it seamless experience for managing and operating the technology and make sure that it delivers the services that the end customers rely on.
Fantastic, fantastic. Jesse, Michael, thank you so much for joining us here in the studio. Really appreciate your time. Great talk from center stage and everything you're doing here at the show, so well done. Stay with me. We're going to announce the next segment right now. We're going to head into our next center stage session. That is kicking off here at 2:15 Central European Time, about 45 seconds from now. We're going to look at building a resilient future. The different stages in observability excellence. Mike Cohen, Steve Moore, Laura Marie Vetter are here with us to lead out that session. We're going to discover what the future observability really looks like. They're going to dive into what they call the 4 key stages that are really essential to building out a leading observability practice. They're also going to talk about the ways we can incorporate AI in the right way to be able to create maximum impact. And then we'll look at Splunk observability and the way it's being used right now. That is supercharged by App Dynamics. So let's head out to center stage right now. We're going to hear those stories for ourselves, and we'll meet you right back here on the other side. Away we go.